friends around the world, and welcome. This is Caravan to Midnight on the day of Thor, Thursday. So, hammer down. Although we kind of put the hammer down yesterday, too, only to find out that Senator McCain has a brain tumor. I just wanted him out of the Senate. But anyway, and then somebody came up with the caption, Senator McCain is going to die. Regrettably, I must inform that author that everyone is eventually going to die. So be careful with your titles. That one was moronic and obvious. Well, while Buzz Aldrin is thinking, you know Buzz Aldrin, acclaimed astronaut engineer, and of course the second human being ever to walk on the moon, provided of course we went there. Now, Buzz Aldrin says we did. Even tried to punch somebody out for suggesting that we didn't. But there are those who believe that nothing exists. The sky is phony. Sunrise and sunset is phony. It's all phony. But this is real. Buzz Aldrin says, yep, now is the time to start thinking seriously about what life on Mars might look like in the future. Yep, it's time for humans to start looking at other planets to live on. Oh, I completely agree. Don't you? This one I think is tapped out. It really is. And it's, I saw this interesting graphic the other day. It was supposed to be God. And he was adding the human ingredients to the globe. And one of them said, one of the cans that he had containing material he wanted to populate the earth with said, well, alpha holes. And the little word bubble next to him said, oops, because he put in a few too many. And I think that's what we have here. The situation is getting out of control. Do you know, these shoppers at Whole Foods are so spoiled, they really want cashier-free checkout. And they expect Amazon to give it to them. When shoppers were asked what Amazon should add or change at Whole Foods locations, well, I'd say drop the price on a lot of that stuff. You know, when it's $8 for a half a gallon of half and half, please. The top response was adding cashier-free checkout, according to a poll conducted by Charge It Spot. I'm serious. Now, that's got to hurt the feelings of many Whole Foods cashiers, knowing that the majority of respondents want them to be gone. Our survey found that shoppers want the Amazon Whole Foods merger to upgrade the grocery store experience with additions of useful technology. Experts are saying fewer cashier positions will translate to more people employed in distribution centers and fulfillment hubs. So it's going to be all right, everybody. Now, in the meantime, question from Futurism.com. When will we see the first robot that is indistinguishable from a human? And it's a really long article, and there are a couple of very creepy photographs of robots that look more like Rachel Maddow than actual humans. But one company that's trying to steer clear the creepiness factor with its humanoid robots is Hong Kong-based Hanson Robotics. Chief Marketing Officer John Lim. That's the correct pronunciation, Jeanne, Jean. Lim says the company's engineers were working on ways to get their robots, which include the Albert Einstein Hubo, to interact with humans using the correct facial expressions. Once we overcome this with design and animation that is attuned to human perception and psychology, then we can create an uncannily like human face with no valley. He said this in an interview with Forbes, and Lim believes they are close to attaining this. We expect to see an explosion of service robots in the next 5 years. 5 years. Not bad. Now let's see what else. The Olympics, this is an article from Natural News, written by Robert Jonathan. You know, Mike Adams, the health ranger, it's his site, Natural News. The Olympics just abandoned all science, drops gender testing to allow men to compete as women in all events. Okay. Hackers found to be relentlessly trying to breach nuclear power plant computer systems. Nuclear terrorism plan in the works. This is also from Natural News by Jason Veley, V-E-L-E-Y, Veley, yes? Various nuclear plants and energy providers like Wolf Creek Nuclear Operating Corporation in Burlington, Kansas, have recently been the targets of a hacking attempt, according to a joint report from DHS and the FBI last week. The effort to breach the computer systems of these nuclear plants was followed immediately by an urgent amber warning, which is the second highest rating for a threat like this. While the DHS has not released the names of the other facilities that were targeted, the department said that the attempted hacking does pose a threat to the public. Oh, you think? Absolutely. The Nuclear Energy Institute has stated that nuclear reactors weren't affected at all by the hacking, but even so, the potential disaster that could have unfolded is terrifying to think about, in and of itself. Had these hackers, whether they were operating from within the country or abroad, successfully gained control over the facility's nuclear reactors, hundreds of thousands or even millions of people could have been severely injured or killed. No one knows if or when World War III will occur, but if it does, cyber warfare will no doubt play a significant role. If a foreign or domestic enemy that seeks the destruction of the U.S. hacks into our governmental departments and agencies, the results could be anything from the release of top-secret information to the hijacking of our nuclear stockpile. But as it turns out, the world may not have to wait until World War III to witness the devastating effects of cyber warfare. Last month in Ukraine's capital city, Kiev, ATM machines failed. Oh, that is holocaustical. Preventing people from withdrawing money out of their bank accounts. It's the end of the world. 80 miles away at Chernobyl, that nuclear power plant, workers were forced to abandon their failing computers and monitor radiation levels manually. As it turns out, several different tech companies around the world were also experiencing technical difficulties, including the Danish shipping company Maersk, the American drug company Merck, even a Cadbury chocolate factory located in Australia. This is outrageous. It's still unclear who was responsible for the cyber attack, but many people believe that whoever did it intended to strike on the 21st anniversary of Ukraine's first constitution after gaining its independence from the Soviet Union. Although this cyber attack was fairly severe with regards to the number of companies that were affected, it is only the latest in a series of attacks since a group called the Shadow Brokers stole dozens of hacking tools from the NSA back in April of this year. Needless to say, cyber warfare is starting to become a very serious concern, not just for the U.S., but also for most other countries around the world. Thankfully, President Trump seems to be taking action to prevent such a cyber attack from ever occurring in the first place. Go Trump. Annoy that establishment. Drive them over the brink. Seriously, I like him if for no other reason than so many on the left hate him. That the more they hate him, the more I love him. You know what I mean? Speaking of a moron, celebrity scientist Bill Nye said in a recent interview that advocates for fighting climate change will have to wait for the deniers to die. Well, Bill, I can relate to that because a lot of us are sitting around waiting for morons like yourself to die. Asked about the declining levels of trust by Republicans in colleges and universities, Nye said in an interview published by that bastion of truth and accuracy, the Los Angeles Times, that one's, quote, intuition about climate change, end quote, is not a match for facts about it. Climate change deniers, he added, are older and would just have to age out, according to the Washington Examiner. It just sounds like people are afraid, he said, and the people who are afraid in general, with due respect, and I am now one of them, are older. Climate change deniers, by way of example, are older. It's generational, so we're just going to have to wait for those people to age out, as they say. Age out is a euphemism for die, but it'll happen. I guarantee you that'll happen. What an idiot. Question. You probably saw the recent Pew poll that found 2 years ago 54% of Republicans said colleges and universities have a positive impact. Now 58% say it's negative, even a number of Democrats. Nye, universities have a negative impact? Well, that's not good news, so, okay, why are universities bad? Question. This poll finds that some people say they have a negative impact on the way things are going. And it seems to me that we are in retreat in some ways from having any regard for knowledge. Nye, this is it. The so-called experts. What do they know? They're experts, for crying out loud. One's intuition about climate change is not as good as facts about climate change. And apparently Mr. Nye, the science guy, the throwback dinosaur from the 90s, has no regard for facts himself. He just gets out there and gets the ignorant and the gullible all ginned up about this, while the inconvenient fat-ass Al Gore says it's not too late. It's not too late to avoid catastrophe. These people really are, I mean, they just should be disregarded altogether. It's just stupid. And you know, just by reading a story that features this twit, Bill Nye, that's my opinion, the guy's a twit. And you know, he's a malevolent twit. And a few other things that I won't mention now. The thing is that even reading a story about him and his comments, in some ways, is not good only because it gives him more exposure. The experts are baffled all the time, right? Which means what? They're not experts. And this person is certainly no expert. The science guy, who has no regard for actual science whatsoever. Climate change? You know, I think we should just ponder the true meaning of those two words, climate change. It just goes nowhere. Nye became famous as host of Bill Nye the Science Guy in the 90s. He's risen back to progressive prominence in recent years as an advocate for fighting climate change. Get up there and slap that sun around a little bit. Show it who's boss. Because all weather is caused, I say it again, by unequal heating of the Earth's surface. And what's the biggest heater in our immediate universe? That would be the sun. It's just ridiculous. They continue to push this stuff out there, and it's just nonsense. But that's the left. Speaking of the left, from Canada Free Press, by Bomb Throwers, Mark Tapson, Front Page Mag. Okay. The left's next step, redefining hate speech as violence. An article in the Sunday Review section of the July 16 New York Times posed a question which, once upon a more innocent time, would have been considered nonsensical. The question is, when is speech violence? The response of any person who cares about the clarity of language would properly be never. But Lisa Feldman Barrett, a professor of psychology at Northeastern University, asserts in the Times piece that the science is settled. Speech that bullies and torments is literally a form of violence. Now, to take a look at this person, may I just say that she ain't no Barbie doll. In fact, she does not even appear to be normal, in as much as our understanding of the word normal is today, which is, you know, it's getting kind of stretched this way and that. It seems obvious, Barrett begins, that, quote, violence is physically damaging. Verbal statements aren't. Yes, that should be obvious to anyone except liberals, who know that whoever controls the language controls minds. So they're hell-bent on weaponizing words to advance their totalitarian agenda. And you know what? Let me just say this. That's precisely what it is. We know this, but when you see it in print, and those words actually hit the surface of your eyes, only to be sent through the process of understanding what the symbols mean, and you see advance their totalitarian agenda. This isn't just throwing a word bomb. That is their aim. They want a totalitarian agenda. They think that they'll be part of the authoritarian component. They won't be, of course, but these people are deluded to begin with. But to actually want a totalitarian agenda, it's a little easier to understand how the whole Nazi thing happened. It's easier to understand how the killing fields, the whole Pol Pot deal, the whole Joe Stalin thing, all of that. It's because you have lots and lots of ignorant and gullible people that will go along with this. And all you have to do is keep telling them, it'll be okay. It's for the best. We just want the best for everyone. Well, it'll be the best for some, but it'll be the worst for the vast majority. That's the way it always is. And then it comes falling down and, okay, communism is done. We're free again. And then they get soft and they want to go back to it after a while because human beings are just stupid, apparently. They really are. Look at how many people are talking about a breakaway civilization. Which ones are talking about it? The smart ones who want to get away from these morons. Morons are dangerous. I've said this before, but think about this. How do people behave when they're leaving a concert? Well, they want their way. Well, they want that car in there right now. They want their way. There's 2 miles of cars up ahead of them, but they're aggressively finding their place in the line of cars. That, I repeat, is 2 miles long, going that way, right? Now, that's a concert. How about a sporting event? Big game. And how do we think that these people are going to act if they're ever beset by a real emergency? So, mesta se. Rule number 1 is avoid. I don't know, I'm thinking more and more about what Buzz Aldrin said. Maybe it's time to find a new planet, one that has fewer people on it. You know, the left has spent decades successfully normalizing the intentionally vague term hate speech in the culture, even going so far as to insist that it should not be protected by the First Amendment. But what is hate speech? It's anything the left wants it to be, of course. When the media elites of CNN or HBO or The View or late-night talk shows openly bash Christians or the traditional values of flyover Americans, it is never, ever condemned as hate speech. But those same elites jump to denounce virtually everything the right says as such. It is a brilliantly effective way to delegitimize conservatives and their ideas and to exclude them from the public sphere. Now, illiberals want to take the concept of hate speech to the next level, redefining the word violence to include emotionally hurtful language. And Barrett and her ilk, and that would be the New York Times, are attempting to legitimize this scientifically. Barrett's premise is that words can have a powerful effect on your nervous system. The stress they cause can make you sick, alter your brain, even kill neurons and shorten your life. Thus, certain types of speech can be a form of violence. She notes that this concept is the sort of thing that has led to campus controversies about microaggressions, which have stuck many as a coddling or infantilizing of students. Infantilizing, I like that. As well as a corrosive influence on the freedom of expression necessary for intellectual progress. Yes, that is precisely what all this politically correct umbrage about safe spaces and trigger warnings is. Coddling and corrosive, but it is also more than that. It is an insidious strategy to shut down ideas and people that the left wants to demonize as not simply unworthy of debate, but as dangerous and evil. Barrett believes she offers a scientific rationale for, quote, which kinds of controversial speech should and shouldn't be acceptable on campus and in civil society. In short, the answer depends on whether the speech is abusive or merely offensive. The latter has no adverse physical effects, but what she calls abusive speech triggers, quote, the kind of stress that brings on illness and remodels your brain. That's also true of a political climate in which groups of people endlessly hurl hateful words at one another, and of rampant bullying in school or on social media. A culture of constant casual brutality is toxic to the body, and we suffer for it. Barrett actually calls it reasonable, scientifically speaking, not to allow a provocateur and hate-monger like Milo Yiannopoulos to speak at your school. He's part of something noxious, a campaign of abuse. There is nothing to be gained from debating him, for debate is not what he is offering. That is utterly false. It's not Milo who isn't interested in debate. It's the political correct bullies of the left who have jettisoned intellectual debate because they know they can't compete with conservatives on the playing field, not a level one anyway, of reasoned argument. The reason the left has nothing to gain from debating him, as Barrett claims, is not that he's unwilling to debate, but that he crushes opponents in debates. That's why the left prefers to employ Saul Alinsky's strategy of the politics of personal destruction. Having dismissed Milo as a hate-monger unworthy of consideration by decent people, Barrett moves on to casually dismiss the political scientist Charles Murray as a racist. Although his speech isn't violent, she concedes, merely offensive, it's revealing that Barrett didn't offer up examples of hate speech or racism from the left. Why not use the anti-Christian gay activist Dan Savage as an example of hate-mongering? Why not name Al Sharpton as an example of a racist? The tiresome accusations that Murray is racist are based literally on one tentative sentence from his whole impressive oeuvre of social commentary, whereas Sharpton has a lengthy career of openly racist statements and unapologetic race-mongering. Yet Sharpton can speak anywhere. Right? Barrett concludes her article by paying lip service to the necessity for open conversations and vigorous debate about controversial or offensive topics, then declaring that we must also halt speech that bullies and torments. From the perspective of our brain cells, which this broad has few of, it's obvious, the latter is literally a form of violence. Literally. Sorry, you liberals, but to quote from The Princess Bride, you keep using that word. I do not think you know what it means. Speech is not literally violence. Of course, verbal bullying can be stressful, but to claim that speech qualifies as violence redefines both concepts and enables the left to demonize and shut down any argument they deem sufficiently stressful. And that, of course, is their aim. So here's the thing. Following on from yesterday, don't be afraid of these leftist pukes. Don't be afraid of them at all. I know you're normal. I know you're busier being productive than whining and complaining about things. But this is a clear and present danger. If idiots like this Barrett continue to get traction, more and more ignorant and gullible people will be pulled into it because they know exactly what the author stated to be true. I mean, this is the mentality of, well, if we can't win on the football field, then we'll win in the parking lot, meaning they'll have a brawl in the parking lot. It's the mentality of the savage. It's the same mentality that makes the black Africans who were being killed by each other or starving or both alternately, depending on whether it rained that year sufficiently to grow anything. But then again, they don't really grow anything in the bush. They just move around and get what they can, if they can, and sometimes they can't. This is what causes people like that to declare all science to be racist. All of it. And it should be discarded because it is racist. So that the genius wife of Robert Mugabe, Grace, can explain how she got her PhD in 2 months with something like, "It was by grace because my name is Grace." And the other morons go, "Oh, we get it. Oh, that's beautiful. That's wonderful." But it doesn't change the stupidity level one bit. Remember this always. Anywhere in the world where morons have control, it's a hellhole. Everywhere you look. Gee, I can't understand why Switzerland runs right. You can't? It's because they're educated. They have a set of social mores that they abide by, and they have a very simple and totally effective political process. It's not like ours. You have to take a 6-hour course at the university level, or what used to be the university level, to even understand how the United States government works. By overcomplicating it, it makes it harder for people to participate. And of course, that's the objective. They don't want you to get out and vote. They're delighted that 40-some-odd% of people don't go out to vote. They love it. Tips the margins in their favor. The more people vote, the lower their margins for success become. Which is why, who spreads this story about my vote doesn't count? Who spreads that stuff? People on the right or people on the left? Well, it's people on the left. And look how many of them didn't bother to turn out, according to reports, if they can be believed, and who knows if they can. But supposedly, a lot of Democrats and so-called liberals stayed away from the national election last November. But this is where we're headed. A deliberate, and you've heard this over and over again, and I know it, and I get it, and I'm absolutely as sick of it as you are. You watch the program, and I'm glad you do, but I don't think that you read this stuff all day long, day in and day out, like, well, we do. And after a while, it really starts to, dim your wick a little bit. It really does, because you see what a monstrous problem it is. And just to go before the public, because anybody could be watching this video right now. Anybody could. And just, do the old, for God's sakes, we've got to do something. Well, you just come off like a crackpot, because people can't believe it's as bad as you say it is. But I got to tell you something, my friends. It's not as bad as I and many, many others are saying it is. It's worse. It's worse than anybody thinks. We are so close to the edge. Oh, there's the precipice right there. We are so close to the edge that if this thing slips, if this thing falls, our society, we're going to need a lot of help getting up. Let's put it that way. And people like this, they get platforms like the New York Times, and they sit there with their glasses, or they sit there, being so sincere, get that hand up there by that neck, and talk about this stuff like they really want to help. They want to do what's best for everybody, but they never do. Most of the time, they do what is undoubtedly the worst thing they could do to anybody. But it's all about the cause. And I repeat, from the Caravan Council meeting of the other night, always remember, this person, Barrett, and the leftists, they know that this premise is BS. They know it is. They know that this message is vacuous. There's nothing there. But it's designed to evoke a response. So it doesn't matter how moronic the message is. Now, that's a difficult concept to wrap one's head around at first. But just try this out. It does not matter to them that the message is moronic. They know it's moronic, but they know something else. They know it will evoke a response, usually a violent response, certainly a strident response, the yelling before the actual fist fighting begins. It's emotionally based, and it goes right to the core of the leftist, which is insecurity, self-loathing, and non-production of anything other than this. This is the product of the left. Vacant ideology. That's what they sell. And that's why it doesn't matter if to people who actually think the message is stupid. They understand that. I don't mean to oversell here, but I want you to get this. They understand that their own message is stupid. but they know it'll produce a response from ignorant, gullible people. And so they roll with it. And the worst part of it is, it's effective. No one can deny it. From Sharpton to Al Gore to even the drooling Pelosi, they just keep trotting out their same moronic platform that they want to build a civilization on, knowing that they can't. Have you ever been around somebody who wanted control over the least little thing in your life? The least little thing. Whether it's calling the homeowners association because they don't like your flag, that they can't really even see, but they know that it's there, and they can see it from certain angles, and this is offensive. Or they don't like your dog walking on their yard, not even across it. Not even across it if there's no sidewalk, and you're illegal to do it. Anything that they can do to control your life. Just a pain in the backside neighbor. Well, this is a legion. Think of the left as a legion of pain in the backside neighbors. They don't like anything, least of all themselves. Meantime, the left is staking out new frontiers in sexualizing children. This also comes from Canada. Free Press by Tina Trent. Cut Videos is the source of this repellent video apparently depicting real parents teaching their young children how to use sex toys and masturbate. The children, some of whom appear to be as young as 6, squirm and cover their eyes as the adults hand them vibrators and coax them to participate in sex talk right before the cameras. Ask to say out loud whether she masturbates. One young girl fidgets in embarrassment. Cameras everywhere, she whispers. The children are being forced to participate in explicit sex talk, holding vibrators in front of a camera crew, their faces fully exposed. Both legally and ethically, this is child porn. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, Section 2256 of Title 18 U.S. Code defines child pornography as any visual depiction of sexually explicit conduct involving a minor, someone under 18 years of age. Visual depictions include photographs, videos, digital or computer-generated images indistinguishable from an actual minor, and images created, adapted, or modified but appear to depict an identifiable actual minor. Notably, the legal definition of sexually explicit conduct does not require that an image depict a child engaging in sexual activity. A picture of a naked child may constitute illegal child pornography if it is sufficiently sexually suggestive. Additionally, the age of consent for sexual activity in a given state is irrelevant. Any depiction of a minor under 18 years of age engaging in sexually explicit conduct is illegal. Cut Videos claims on their website to be an educational, inspirational, and entertainment channel. Quote, Cut spreads stories for fun, for serious, and for real, bringing the internet together one awkward moment at a time, reads the text, in front of a photo of 3 elderly women sharing a marijuana bong. Another Cut channel, focusing exclusively on very young children, quote, promotes empathy through play. A third channel appears to be about police brutality and includes videos of small children being prompted to talk about their feelings about the police. Oh, that's productive. There are dozens of videos on the Cut channels, but a handful of themes predominate. First, there are dozens of videos of people either smoking pot together or engaging in drinking games to the point of serious intoxication. It's apparently supposed to be thought-provoking that incongruous groupings become high together. Fathers and daughters, moms and sons, grandmothers and grandchildren, ex-cops, and one video with a rabbi, an Episcopal priest, and an atheist. Everybody must get stoned, right? Second, there are multiple videos of parents talking with their children about sex, masturbation, where babies come from, when they lost their virginity, both the parents and the children, and other sexual themes. In a third set of videos, people are separated by types, black men and women, and asked brief questions. Does size matter? Is a typical query for white women. Black men are asked about their feelings about police, and Native Americans are asked about Christopher Columbus. If this doesn't sound like fun, that's because it isn't. An entire cut video channel is dedicated to children playing, tasting food from other cultures. That's the empathy part. And going on play trips with their parents. These videos link to the children on other forms of social media and are littered with appeals for representation, apparently in the hope that their children, who are the same children depicted in the sexualized videos, will become internet stars. One of the odd features of the sex talk videos is that the younger children's faces are clearly in the camera line, while their parents keep their heads down under or turned sideways from the camera's angle. Whether this is intentional or accidental, it's creepy. More so when one considers that these parents are seeking even higher levels of online exposure for these young kids. Unsurprisingly, cut videos appear to be filmed in Portland, Oregon. The people involved in cut seem to think they're engaging in some hipper version of children's television workshop. They use a lot of editing techniques and set pieces common to children's television shows, loopy sound effects and cut frames, visits to zoos, and icky food themes. But this is not Mr. Rogers with his gentle presence letting children be children. It isn't even Pee Wee Herman, who, for all the problems in his private life, produced a show that could be watched by children, though it wasn't really for children. The themes on display here aren't just adult in nature. They are sad pathologies, parading as insight. That's the left. Okay, well, I think we understand that the left is insane in the membrane, as the old song goes. Yes, insane in the brain. It is a good question, though. Why is Obama fundraising, and why are corporations answering his cash call? When will Barack Obama have made enough money? Well, maybe never. The big question is he just money hungry? I mean, is the first ex-president who ever left the White House to become the leader of the resistance collecting money for his ego or to fund the resistance? He thinks he's Nelson Mandela. He thinks he's a great leader. He's actually just a skinny megalomaniac and nothing more, and the most pathetic excuse for a president we've ever had. And here we go again. Does anybody even want to hear what Minority Leader Pelosi said? She accused Republicans of proposing a budget that will cause violence to spread. While speaking at a rally to oppose education budget cuts on Wednesday, a budget that says we do not measure the strength of our country in the health, education, and well-being of our people. We only measure it in military might. You know what that does? It requires more military might. It takes us down the wrong path. We take an oath to protect and defend, Pelosi concluded, but that's not the point of this. This is supposed to be a budget that prevents the spread of violence. Instead, they have a budget that stirs it up. When do we end on something scientific? You're going to love this. China is set to launch the world's first quantum communication network. By the end of August, China plans to roll out the Jinan project, the world's first unhackable computer network, which is based on quantum principles. The project uses the city of Jinan as a quantum computer hub that boosts the Beijing-Shanghai quantum network due to its central geographic position between the two larger cities. Specifically, the network alerts both users to any tampering with the system, as tampering alters the information being relayed. The disturbance is instantly recognizable, and both parties can immediately identify when something is amiss. Zhu Fei, assistant director of the Jinan Institute of Quantum Technology, sees the system having worldwide ramifications. He told the Financial Times that, quote, "We plan to use the network for national defense, finance, and other fields, and hope to spread it out as a pilot that, if successful, can be used across China and the whole world." By implementing the quantum computer network, China will become the first country to implement quantum technology for a real-life commercial end. It also marks China as a quantum leader worldwide, a status that is reinforced by their development of the hi-fi machine, which could eclipse all current supercomputers, as well as their successful transportation of a photon from a satellite in space using quantum physics, which means beam me up, Scotty, is not far off. And China's doing it. And who funded this? We did. How? by offshoring all of our, well, maybe not all of it, but about most of it, of our manufacturing to China. What did they do with it? They used it to better and make stronger their nation and their people, unlike the United States and much of Western Europe. You know, when you don't have natural resources the way the United States, North America has had all this stuff, you know, everything from timber to uranium, you know, precious metals, all that stuff. It'll eventually occur to a real leader that the greatest resource they have is their human population. And so what they've done is invest in that. Here in the West, we invest in coddling the human population, making them feel better about themselves. How do we do that? Do we do it by enabling them to do greater and greater things all the time? No. We go the other way. We make them feel good about being do-nothings. In the same way I was ranting yesterday. We make Congress feel powerful because we continue to re-elect and re-elect and re-elect the same morons who were doing nothing then as are doing nothing now. We don't invest in real education. No. What we invest in is emotional balm. Just make everybody feel better. Diabetes, off the scale. Violence, off the scale pretty much. The country's nothing like what it was when I was a teenager. And as a preteen, one murder would shock the entire country. Something like Richard Speck killing all those nurses, killed 9 nurses, I think. People were walking around like zombies. They couldn't believe such a thing could happen. We had a moral compass that worked in those days. And I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again today. There's no going back. We have to go forward. The question is, can we? And if yes, then the next question is, how? Who will lead? And if no one will lead but bad leaders, who will follow? If you're watching this program on YouTube, thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate it very much. Everybody at Caravan appreciates you very much. Even if all you can do is watch on YouTube, we're still all right with it because the word and the truth as we see it, as we analyze these things and come to various conclusions, even if the conclusion we come to is that we can't draw a conclusion, if that's of value to you, then we're okay with that. But if you want to get into the deep stuff, and we hope you do want to, ask yourself the question, do you really want to know? If you do, become a member of Caravan to Midnight. If you don't, no big deal. But that can be dangerous in the years to come. That's why I always say, sharpen your critical thinking skills. And if you don't know how to think independently, you can learn it. You're a human being. You can do absolutely anything. You can teach yourself anything. All you have to know how to do is read. Behold what's happening to our society. If we wake enough people up, we might have a chance of straightening things out and making it less of a hellhole for our children and their children. Because the years go by really fast. Oh, you're talking about grandchildren now? It's like, it'll happen before you know it. I assure you that at the end of your life, one of the things that you will think about is, damn, that went by so fast. I just thought it was going to keep going. You won't be the only one who thought that. None of us will be. It does go by fast. The one thing that nobody bothered to tell us was that a year is not very long. It was 365 days. Tick-tock. It's all going by. So if you're interested in getting the word out, then join us. Every time somebody joins us, that power is multiplied by 10. People all over the world are involved in Caravan to Midnight now. And frankly, you helped make it possible, even if you're not a member. If you become a member, that's a force multiplier. And it's so reasonably priced that it's downright cheap. You're about to see episode 778 in archive, waiting for you, all those programs. Plus Arc Midnight on Saturday nights. And then Dr. Janda does his radio show, but he's been doing that for years, so that's not really a part of this. But he is part of the Caravan crew and produces a show on Monday, and he produces another one on Thursday, and does his radio show on Sunday. Now look, 8 days a week, the old song. Okay, 8 shows out of a 7-day week. That's dedication. So join us. You'll be in very, very good company. You'll be a family member, and you'll be treated like one. Okay? Okay. Just remember what we talked about.